The reason why people say conservative is anytime you get outside the box, including medically, you know, if I don't want to use hand sanitizer or I want to make up my own mind about how many boosters I want to get, 0, somehow that makes me a conservative. It doesn't make me a conservative.
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
and look, I mean, I imagine
I
you're
was championed by the right by my vax status, and I'm like, I was getting weekly requests to go on Fox News. I'm like, I'm go on Fox News. I'm like, I don't want to be part of any
right,
politics at all.
right,
I believe what I believe.
right.
Most of it I based on my own personal version of common sense,
And
and I don't believe in partisanship. Partisanship, two-party system has ruined this country.
That's Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. He's on with Bill Maher on his podcast, and he's still talking about those vaccines and the politics surrounding it and how he doesn't want to be involved in politics, but then he wants to talk about politics and the partisanship that is destroying our country. He doesn't want to go on Fox News either, and he doesn't know why people were saying he's such a conservative. We're going to tell you why people thought you were such a conservative, outside the fact that Fox News thought you're a conservative. But just because your vaccine views don't necessarily mean that. I agree with that. But there's other things that he said. But first, they continued on talking about his MVP award that he won and how it wouldn't have been possible if people truly thought he was a conservative. Watch that.
you would not have won the MVP.
No chance.
Wait, if people really thought that your stance, I thought courageous stance on, let's call it medical independence, was so outrageous. If you had said, I voted for Trump, I bet you would not have won that MVP.
I would not have.
Right. So it just says that what we believe about medicine is not that outrageous and not that uncommon, because I think otherwise you never would have still got voted MVP.
It's true. You can have certain opinions
Right.
and not make it, like agreeing, or voting for Trump. But
Right. And
but I think there's a lot of people that believe that you should have your own decision making on your own medical decision.
I feel like Aaron was trying to find a way to piggyback on what Maher was saying because it didn't make much sense. If people thought you were conservative, you wouldn't have won the MVP. People considered Colin Kaepernick a lib, a crying, bleeding heart lib when he kneeled and actually got blackballed from the league. Did he win an MVP? Did he even get allowed back in the league? Since we're talking about whether or not people consider you conservative versus lib and whether or not you get any kind of accolades for it. Because by the way, this is the NFL. Whether or not this conservative or liberal based off, especially when it comes to the ownership groups. Anyways, let's tackle these reasons why people thought that Aaron Rodgers was conservative. Number one, as I point out, Fox News thought so maybe you should be mad at them. But also there's this. This is from back in January of this year. In a lengthy ESPN story about the outspoken NFL veteran published on Friday, Rodgers fumed about Biden recently labeling COVID-19 as the pandemic of the unvaccinated. When the president of the United States says this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, it's because him and his constituents, which I don't know how there are any of, if you watch any of his attempts at public speaking, but I guess he got 81 million votes, is what Rodgers said in January. And you still have this fake White House set saying that this is the pandemic of the unvaccinated. And that's not helping the conversation. This is what Aaron Rodgers said. So when you question or at least insinuate that the election wasn't won, sounds like a MAGA talking point, people might think you're conservative. But there's not only that, because he was also denying reality on the COVID numbers as well, which we saw many conservatives doing, of course, based on politics. But there was also the CDC study that found that just 36 of a group of 1.2 million people who were fully vaccinated between December of 20 and October of 21 died because of the virus. And most of those 36 had a pre-existing condition. Weird how that works. We're going to ignore those science and the very basic things like that and go for your own thoughts and processes. By the way, you can have your own thoughts. You can have your own beliefs. You can have your own things that you want to do with yourself. And we're going to get to that at the end. But there's another time Senator Turner, he did this because he evoked the woke cancel culture in this particular part. The Packers quarterback appeared on the Pat McAfee show, spoke for about 15 minutes uninterrupted about all the factors that went into his decision not to be vaccinated and all of his issues with the backlash that he has received. And he says this: I realize I'm in the crosshairs of the woke mob right now. So before my final nail gets put in my cancel culture casket, I think I'd like to set the record straight on some of the blatant lies that are out there about myself right now, is what he said as he started off on his talk about why he decided to do what he did. So a woke mob coming for me. Cancel culture trying to get me. That election, which I don't know if you guys figure how he won that, considering he can't speak. Those might be just a couple of the reasons people thought you were conservative. Or you could just not get your vaccination, sit out for however much time you need to sit out, and be quiet. Instead, you talked, so people responded. What are your thoughts, Senator Turner?
Well, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it might be a damn duck. Okay, Aaron need to get a clue here. And just the science part of all of this. Now, the pandemic, Jayar, this drives me absolutely crazy on this pandemic. We all have a responsibility. We had at the height of it, and we still have it right now. And it just seems like to me, he just wants to shun his responsibilities and wrap this thing around some partisanship argument. The doctors have said, okay, so this ain't about President Biden or the Democrats. The doctors have said, the nurses have said, the experts on this issue have said there are certain things that we need to do as a larger community to slow the spread of the COVID virus. What the hell is political about that?
Only when politicians got involved is when it got political, and then that's when everyone else got jumped on that same bandwagon as well, and drew their battle lines. Now, by the way, I have some of my really best friends who were questioning the vaccine even after they looked into it and heard some of those things. No, I wouldn't have considered them conservatives, but they also weren't talking about the woke mob, and they also weren't talking about how Biden probably didn't win that election, or those types of things. And also didn't go on Joe Rogan's show and say everything Joe Rogan said makes sense. That was kind of the other problem with the whole thing that happened. But lastly, again, like I was pointing out, Kyrie Irving, NBA player, he also didn't want to get vaccinated. And he caught so much hell for it. And I was one of the, I don't know, a few people, but I was one of the folks who was like, hey, I disagree with his decision, but at least he said, I'm not taking it and I will sit out. Because you're taking other people's body autonomy away as well when you walk in there and you want to spread your COVID. Other folks don't want to get it. And if you're okay with getting it, which he did, and he survived, which I'm very happy he did, cool. How about someone else? That's what they keep forgetting. And that's where it was a Republican versus a lib issue, got to be honest.